Hello and welcome to the bank reconciliation video for Soluno software. In this video, we will go over the bank reconciliation process from beginning to end, and we'll also show you a few troubleshooting tips that may help you doing your bank reconciliation. So with that in mind, let's jump into Soluno. The bank reconciliation, it'll be done under the bank admin icon. So on the main toolbar, the little column with a $sign, that's your bank admin. Click it, and you'll see a series of tabs. The one we're concerned about is feeds and reconciliation. Now, depending on how your bank statement arrives, if your bank statement is reconciling deposit versus deposit, then before you do your bank rec, you're going to want to create deposit slips for your system. That way, when you do the bank reconciliation, you'll be able to reconcile the deposit slip from the bank statement to the deposit slip within Soluno. Now, if your bank statement shows each individual receipt and you're reconciling receipt versus receipt, you don't need to use the deposit slip feature of Soluno. So for those of you who are reconciling deposit versus deposit, before you do your bank rec, make sure you've created deposit slips. To do that, click on the deposit slip tab. You'll have two tabs underneath. New to create a new deposit slip, and previous to see your previous deposit slips if you need to make edits. To create a new deposit slip, choose the bank account you're going to deposit into. Choose the date of the deposit. This is important that you choose the right date. This date needs to match the date you made the deposit at the bank. Next, how many days prior to and including the date of deposit are you looking for transactions or receipts to deposit? And then what type of transactions are you looking for? Most of you probably just looking for cash and checks, but if you want to see everything available, you can also show credits and debits and any other type of receipts. Then click play to see what you have available. So I've got these transactions for July 19th, and I would just tag the ones I'm depositing. The one I want to do is down below in the bottom right, verify this deposit slip total matches the deposit slip total I'm making at the bank or I've already made at the bank. Then to finish the deposit slip, just click Finalize to finalize the deposit slip within Soluno. We will create a deposit slip. Now, it's a possibility maybe your bank would accept our deposit slip. Then you just have to sign it and get the bank teller to sign it. They may not. You may have to use your own deposit slip, but just be aware that we will create a PDF copy whether you use it or not, so you have it within the system. If you need to see a previous deposit slip or edit a previous deposit slip, that's the Previous tab. Under Previous, go to List of Entries, hit the drop down, and choose your view. We only have the one view. Then you can narrow down a date range for your deposit slips. You can narrow it down by type of bank account. And the reference would be the deposit slip number if you're looking for a specific deposit slip. Then click Play to run the report. Here are all the deposit slips I've created for my trust account. If a trust receipt has already been reconciled in a bank reconciliation, you will not be able to edit it. The only way to access that would be to go and undo the bank rec that it's a part of, and then you can make your edits. You can still print a copy of the deposit slip, though. Otherwise, if it has not been reconciled, then you will see the trash can icon, so you can delete the deposit slip and then go back and recreate it after you fix any errors that were with any of the receipts within that deposit slip. Just click Delete. Are you sure? Click Yes. All that does is delete the deposit slip. The actual individual receipts remain untouched. You can now go in, make any corrections to any of those receipts, and then go back to the New tab and recreate the deposit slip again. So for those people that do use deposit slips, this is how you can create them in Soluno so you have them available for your bank reconciliation. So let's take a look at a couple ways to do the bank rec. The first way, if you can download your bank statement as a QBO file, a QuickBooks Online file, then we can automate part of the process for you. All you would do is download the bank statement as the QBO file, and either click in this box and point to it, or drag the file into the box. And if you can do it, when you drag it in, we will find the bank account, show you the date ranges, go ahead and fill in the debits and the credits, and we basically match everything that was in that QBO file to what we found in Soluno. And then just click Submit. Now at the top, you'll get this Bank Feed tab. This tab only appears when you drag and drop a QBO file. If you're not going to use the QBO file and do a manual bank rec, you will not see this tab. What this tab is for is down below, you'll see unmatched checks and unmatched deposits. If there's something in Bank Feed that we could not match in Soluno, it will show up here. So it looks like all my checks that were in that bank statement matched out perfectly. If I go to unmatched deposits, oh, there's a deposit it could not find in Soluno. It might just be someone changed the deposit total in Soluno. That's why it no longer matches up. So maybe it's actually in the system, but we couldn't match it. If this is actually already in the system, but for some reason didn't match, then you can delete this extra transaction and just manually reconcile it within Soluno. If for some reason this was never entered into Soluno, someone forgot to enter that transaction in, well, then you can just click the plus sign to add that transaction into Soluno, fill in any missing details, click Save, and then that'll be available for reconciliation. So the bank feed is just a matching. It does not import transactions from the bank feed into Soluno. It just matches the transactions it finds in the bank feed to those existing transactions within Soluno itself. And use the bank feed tab to find those missing transactions. If they're truly missing, add them in. If they're duplicates of existing ones, then delete the duplicate. Now for this particular bank rec, I haven't done a bank rec for this account before, so it has a prior outstanding tab. The first time you do a bank reconciliation for a bank account, you need to make sure you enter your prior outstanding items so that you can finish the reconciliation. So if you're coming in from another product, make sure you have the last bank rec that you did that has that list of prior outstanding items and enter them here. First, as you can see at the bottom, you'll enter any missing checks from the prior outstanding, and then you'll click on receipts and you'll enter in receipts that are still outstanding. It is extremely important you enter them here, because if they're not entered, even though you might get through this bank reconciliation okay, at some point your bank reconciliations will fail to reconcile because your journal entries will not match up properly when we reconcile against the journal. So make sure you enter all prior outstanding receipts and all outstanding previous checks under the prior outstanding tab the first time you reconcile an account. So that's a QBO file. There's more to it, but I'm also going to do a manual bank reconciliation for those people who can't do a bank rec. So we'll cover these other tabs when I do the manual bank rec. So I'm going to go out, go back in, and show you how to do a manual bank rec if you don't have a QBO file. So the first thing you do is select the bank account you're going to reconcile. In this case, I'll reconcile my operating account. Then click play to load the account. Since I've already done a bank rec for this account previously, the start date will be grayed out. What it does is it takes the previous bank rec's end date, adds a day to it, and that becomes the start date. The only time you're allowed to change the start date is the first time you reconcile a bank account. Next, plug in the end date from your bank statement. Now, since I've done previous bank recs, if I need to access them, they're right here. I can expand out the previous periods, and here are my previous bank reconciliations. If I need to print a copy of a bank rec, the reports are right here in PDF format. If I need to make a correction to a previous bank rec, you can delete it, which will reopen that bank reconciliation so you can make your edits. Please keep in mind, if you do delete a previous bank rec that's older, it not only deletes that bank rec, but all the ones after it as well. So try to catch errors as quickly as possible to save some time and work. So bank account, put in the end date. And again, if it's your first bank rec for an account, you can plug in the first date as well, and then click submit to get into the bank reconciliation. Now, for those of you that are using deposit slips for the bank rec, you will see this screen, receipts versus deposits. For those of you that are reconciling receipt versus receipt, you will not see this tab. It is not needed. So what is this screen for? Well, here on the left, it's showing me all the deposits I made within this bank statement period that'll show up on my bank rec. And that's fine. That's what I want to see. I want to reconcile these deposits when I do the bank rec. Over here on the right, it's showing me unmatched receipts. In other words, these are receipts that were not deposited into Soluno. So I've got two choices. I can go to the deposit slip tab and create those deposits. But if I really don't need the deposit slip as much because the bank doesn't take them, for example, I just want them as deposit slips so I can reconcile. What I can do, instead of using the deposit slip tab, is just create the deposit here. So these three checks, 5th, 5th, and 6th, maybe they were all deposited on April 6th. So what I can do is I can click on the first one and either shift click or control click to highlight the other two. So all three are highlighted in orange. And to create the deposit, I can just drag those three down to the bottom left where it says click or drag receipts to add deposit. Drag them there. And it'll ask you, do you want to create one deposit for all receipts? Which I do. If I said no, each one would be created as its own individual deposit. Click yes. Now they're over here as a deposit slip, and they will be available for the reconciliation. Again, if they're over in the right here, they will not show up on my bank rec. So now I just make sure these other ones get deposited as well. Drag and drop. Yes. Drag and drop. Yes. Now all my receipts have been deposited, and they show up on the deposit section. I can tell which ones I created via the deposit slip tab because I'll have a lock icon. I can't edit them from here. I would have to go to the deposit slip tab to make the edits. The ones that have an edit icon in a trash can are my drag and drops. Those I can edit from here, or if I decide I don't want to deposit them, that they didn't show up, I can click the trash can and delete the deposit and put them back here as unmatched receipts. I'll drag them back because I do want them. So generally speaking, you probably don't want any unmatched receipts here. At the bottom right is receipts on future deposits. Not necessarily a bad thing. It depends on how often you make deposits. So what this is telling me is that I've got these two receipts. They're dated April 27th. So that falls within my April 1st through April 30th statement date. But the deposit date on these are after April 30th, which is a possibility. Sometimes you don't deposit checks the day you get them. So what I could do is I look over here. They're both in the same deposit. Looks like 000065. I can go to the deposit slips tab, go to previous, run the report to find that slip. It's operating, and it was 000065. And then I can run this report to look at that slip. And here it is, and it looks like it's dated May 2nd. Now, if you made that deposit on May 2nd, then you're good. It's not going to be on this bank reconciliation and will show up next month, so we don't have to worry about it. But if someone dated this with the wrong deposit date, then you'd want to delete this deposit, go back to new, and create it with the correct deposit date. That's why this date is so important. This is the date that determines whether it shows up on the bank rec or not. I'm going to assume that date is fine. I will leave them alone, and I will get back into my reconciliation. So that's receipts versus deposit screen. Also, if you're missing a receipt and you notice it's anywhere here, someone forgot to enter it into Soluno, you can click on Add Receipt here and create the receipt real quickly to get it in as part of the bank reconciliation. The next tab, bank errors. Sometimes the bank is going to make a mistake. And in order for you to finish the reconciliation, we need to have those bank errors entered in. So in the top section are new bank errors. So maybe in this example, I had a check for $100. The bank cashed it for $1,000. So I'm out $900 due to their mistake. So I just put in the date that happened, what the amount that I'm out, the reference. If it was a check issue, I would probably put the check number here. And then in the memo, I type in what happened. So by putting in the bank error, that'll update my bank rec and allow me to complete this month's bank rec. So new bank errors should be entered at the top. Below are bank errors from previous bank statements. Now, hopefully, if the bank makes a mistake last month, they fix it the current month. If they do fix it, then you clear it by just tagging the box. That'll clear it in this month's bank reconciliation and clear it from the bank rec going forward. If it hasn't cleared, leave it unchecked until it does clear the bank and they rectify the issue. Now, if a bank messes up in the current statement but fixes it in the current statement, then don't enter it in at all. Because they screwed up, they fixed it, so the net result is 0, no reason to enter it in. Only enter in the bank errors that were not corrected yet by the bank on your current statement. So at the top, create new bank errors. At the bottom, reconcile previous bank errors when they are fixed by the bank. Then, move on to the actual reconciliation. So make sure you've got the closing date here. Enter the closing balance from your bank statement here. And we're doing 2 reconciliations. Reconciling the bank statement against the bank and the statement against the bank journal. The thing you want to make sure of is you're going to see a difference here and a difference here. These 2 numbers should match. One might be negative and one might be positive, and that's fine, but the numbers themselves should be the same. If they're not, you're not going to be able to reconcile. And I will show you some troubleshooting tips at the end of this class on how to get those numbers to match. Now, you do your bank rec. So you go through and you see you've got a section for checks and a section for deposits. Tag the items that have cleared the bank. Now, mine's a training database. I don't have a lot of stuff to clear. You may have hundreds, if not thousands, of checks you need to clear. So we give you some tools to try to help you out. One, you can type check numbers up here and we'll try to find them in the list. And then you can just mark as cleared. It'll tick the box automatically and then take you back to the main list. And there it is, cleared. That's one thing. All these columns are sortable. So you can sort by any column to make it easier to find. If you need to sort a second sort, do your first sort, then hold down the Shift key, and you can do a second sort. But sort by any column defined by amount, check number, whatever you need. In the upper right, show. It's showing both cleared and outstanding. Well, you could tell it, just show me what's still outstanding. So as you clear them, it makes the list easier to navigate. If you accidentally cleared one you shouldn't have, then tell it to show the cleared and uncheck it to get it back off the list. Now, again, if you've got a ton of transactions, you may not wait until you get your bank statement each month. You may want to look online and reconcile as you see things clear the bank. That's fine. So I go through, I reconcile. I'm done for the day. I log out of Soluno. I come in the next day. I log back in. I check my bank account. More things have cleared. I load that bank account back up. It remembers where I left off, and I clear some more. So you can do partial reconciliations each day, every other day, however you want to do it. If you see a mistake on an item, click on the edit pencil, and you can edit it if someone entered the wrong amount or the wrong payee or whatever. So go through, reconcile the checks. Then when you're ready, go through and do the same thing with deposits and reconcile the deposits. Need to see the contents of a deposit because you're not sure it's the right one? Click on the plus sign to expand it to see the individual receipts that make up the deposit. Missing a receipt or a check? Well, on the Deposits tab, you can add a missing receipt. On the Checks tab, add a missing check. Of course, the whole idea is to try to get this to balance to zero on both sections. Until this balances to zero, the close period is not available. You will not be able to reconcile and close it until these numbers are zero. Let's see how close I can get. All right, $90.99. I can make that work. Go back to my checks. Add a check for $90.99. Make sure I date it within the proper period. We'll just call this a bank charge. Check. There's the bank charge. I tick the box. I've now gotten down to zero. Now I can finish and close out my bank reconciliation. I click close period. To finalize it, I generate the report. Now this is important. I think it'll be helpful for you. When you click this box to generate the report, it's going to tell you it may take some time. Don't do anything else in Soluno. Let it generate the report. It may take a little while, but at least when it's done, you'll know that period has been closed properly. So let this report generate before you do anything else in Soluno. Don't go and start working on another bill or a payable or a file. Let this report generate and pop up on your screen, or at least as a download. And then here is our bank reconciliation report. I'm going to blow it up a little bit, I think. So here's my statement reconciliation, my journal reconciliation. On the next page, this is what I cleared out of the system. This is what I cleared in. The new bank error that I entered. The bank error that I cleared. What's still outstanding for the next bank rec. And that bank error that I just entered will be outstanding for the next bank reconciliation. And then everything that I cleared for deposits, and then it'll show the contents of each deposit. So that is the bank reconciliation process within Soluno. Now, as I said, there's a couple troubleshooting tips I want to give you to help you with your first bank rec. So for example, let me go to operating 3. I don't think I've done a bank rec here yet. I have not. So I'm going to submit, go to reconciliation. Remember, if these numbers don't match, they're not going to reconcile. One of the things that causes these numbers not to match is if you're missing prior outstanding items. So make sure you've entered all your prior outstanding items so that this will actually go ahead and allow you to reconcile. Both checks and receipts. So if I go back, I'm off like 173,000. If I go ahead and put another deposit in under prior outstanding, and I go to the reconciliation, now I'm out even more. Those prior items affect your journal reconciliation. That's why it's very important that you enter those prior items. That is one of the reasons people can't do their first bank rec, because they're missing a prior item. So do make sure all prior outstanding have been entered in. They can cause major hassles. And now it's a little bit closer. Fact, if I edit this one down to what, about 25? You'll see I'm getting closer. So that's one of the reasons why they might be out of sync. Another thing that I've seen happen that can cause it to be an issue. I do my new May one. I just did April. It was fine. Now they're out of sync again. How is that possible? Well, sometimes this date up here doesn't actually move to the end of the month like I told it to in the beginning. So verify this date is correct. I select the actual end date of May and then tab out. It updates, and now these numbers match. So sometimes it's as simple as having the wrong closing date. I'm going to switch gears and move to a different book set for a minute. Another thing that can cause an issue is a missing opening balance, these GL opening balances. So I go to my operating account. It's off by 200,000 here. It can be because I entered the wrong opening balance for that bank account. So if I go back to my financials and my GL opening balances, change that back to 0. I change this one to 100. Save. Go back. Now the numbers are fine. I had a wrong GL opening balance. That can cause the issue. So make sure you've got all your prior outstanding items in. Make sure you've entered your GL opening balance in correctly. Make sure you've got the correct date. All those can cause issues with the journal and the statement not matching. Now, if you've done all that and you still have an imbalance, so if you go to the reconciliation and you've got your bank statement down to 0, but your journal is out of balance, there's another thing you can try. Any prior outstandings entered, opening balance is correct, the date here is correct. If this is 0 and your journal's off, try this. Click on one of these two tabs, either release or batch check print. Doesn't matter which one. Just get off the feeds and reconciliation tab. Next, click on your dashboards. Go to your cash flow dashboard. You can run this while other people are in the system working. It's fine. From here, click on the validate button. What it's going to do, it's going to go back and recalculate all your balances. Maybe there was a hiccup in some data and the numbers didn't update properly. So click on validate and let that run. Click yes. When it's running, this button is grayed out. And when it's done, up in the upper right, dashboard, successful green screen. So again, validate. If the button's grayed out, it's running. When it's done, you will see the green in the upper right. If you miss the green, if you see the button is blue again, then you know it's finished. Then go back to feeds and reconciliation, reload the bank account, check it, and 9 times out of 10, that fixes the journal being out, and this will be 0, this will be 0, and you can reconcile. If it's the other way around, if the journal is 0, but your statement is missing, is out, positive or negative, same thing, click off that tab, go to dashboards, this time go to file, and you want to run this at the end of the day when nobody else is in Soluno and let this run, because this is going to take a longer time, because we're going to go through all your files and look for errors. Before we were just looking at the bank accounts. Now we got to look at the individual files, the operating outs, the receipts, etc., and see if there's an imbalance there. So make sure everybody's out of the system. Do this at the end of the day. Go to the File tab, click on Validate, run this one. Same concept, except it'll take longer. Wait for this button to either become blue, or if you happen to be there, wait for the green at the top right. But you can see, even in my small database, this is taking longer to run than the other validate. And that's with a small data set. After you've run that, now go back to feeds and reconciliation, load the account, and now see if your balances are back to 0. If none of that worked, then by all means, please contact support and we will be happy to take a look at it. But that is the bank reconciliation process within Soluno. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to contact us here at training@soluno.legal. Again, check out our website, soluno.legal. Click on the resources tab, go to the training hub. From there, you can register for any of our free live classes. We have other recorded classes like this one there if you can't attend a live session. We have our mini videos that just have little sections that basically narrow down on a specific area of Soluno. And then, of course, we have our training documents that you can download for the different areas of Soluno as well. With that, I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.